Islamic law based on the Quran and Hadith explicitly permits slavery. Muhammad himself owned slaves, bought and sold slaves, and the Islamic legal tradition that developed over centuries codified slavery as permissible and even regulated its practice. This is not controversial Islamic history. This is documented in their own religious texts and legal traditions. Slavery is permitted in Islam. It was practiced from the beginning, and it continued for 1400 years because the religious justification remained intact. The Quran gives specific instructions about slaves, how to acquire them, how to treat them, under what conditions they can be freed, but it never condemns the institution itself. In fact, it assumes slavery is a normal part of society. Now compare this to Christianity. Yes, Christians participated in slavery, including the Atlantic slave trade, but Christianity contains the theological seeds of its own abolition. The idea that all humans are made in the image of God, that we're all equal before God, that we should love our neighbors as ourselves. These principles, taken seriously, make slavery untenable. That's why the abolition movement was led primarily by Christians, Quakers, Methodists, evangelicals. These were the people who fought to end slavery in the British Empire and in America. They used Christian theology to argue that slavery was incompatible with Christian truth. Islam has no such internal contradiction. Slavery is compatible with Islamic law. There's no theological imperative to abolish it. And that's why it's continued in Muslim societies long after it ended in Christian ones. The history is documented. It's not secret. The records exist in Arabic, in European accounts, in the archives as Islamic empires. Scholars who study this period know all of this. But it's not taught in American schools. It's not discussed in media coverage of slavery. It's not referenced in the endless guilt tripping about America's historical sins. Why? Because acknowledging the scope and brutality of Islamic slavery would undermine the narrative that Western civilization is uniquely evil. It would complicate the story that Christians and white people are responsible for all the world's suffering. It would force people to confront that slavery was a global institution practiced by many cultures, and that Islam practiced it longer and more brutally than anyone else. The people controlling education and media don't want you to know this. They want you to think slavery is an American sin, a Western sin, a white sin. They want you to carry the guilt that makes you susceptible to their political agenda. But the truth is that slavery was universal, and the Islamic version was worse in scope, duration, and brutality than what happened in America. And unlike America, which fought a civil war to end slavery, and then spent the next century and a half working toward racial equality, Islamic societies never went through that reckoning. Many still haven't fully acknowledged that what they did for 1400 years was wrong. The history they won't teach you. That's the truth they're desperate to hide.